I-cord is a common technique for creating a cord out of knitting. It's basically like a little knitted tube. And the way that it's created is, so you'll first cast on the number of stitches that your pattern calls for. I'm just going to cast on 3. It's usually between 3 and 5. Anything over 5 or 6 in the back of it tends to get a little bit wonky looking. So you'll need to have a pair of double pointed needles or a circular needle, but you've got to have something that's got a point at both ends for knitting off both ends. So I've casted on my 3 stitches. Now normally what you would do is turn your work around and start knitting or purling. But for I-cord, what you're going to do is actually take those 3 stitches and just slide them to the other end of your needle. So your working yarn is on the wrong end. And what you'll do is start knitting into this end, and you're just going to take your working yarn and pull it around the back of your work and give it a little tug. So I'll knit those 3 stitches, and now I don't turn my work at all. I simply take those 3 stitches again and slide them down to the other end of my needle and knit them again. And you don't want it to be too loosey-goosey. You want to give it a tug at the end of your work. Slide down to the other end. That first stitch you want to be a little bit tight. You want to give it a little tug, because what you're doing is your working yarn is kind of being pulled across the back of your work, and if you pull it tightly, it will connect the last stitch and the first stitch. It will pull them together in the back and create a knitted tube. Woo! So I will work on that a little bit more, and we'll come back when it's a little longer. So this is how the I-cord looks after you've worked a few rows. It's actually knit stitches all the way around. It's just 3 knit stitches that have been connected into a little tube of knitting. And once you're done, once your I-cord is as long as you want it to be, if you've only got a couple stitches, 2 or 3 stitches for your I-cord, you can just break your yarn and pull it through those 3 stitches and pull them tight. If you've got more than that, you can just bind off in the normal way. Usually you wouldn't, by the normal way I don't mean turn your work around and bind off. You'd bind off still in I-cord. So you would knit your first stitch just like you're doing for I-cord. Knit your second stitch and bind those off. And then work your last stitch and bind that off. So that maintains the I-cord tube. And that is how to knit I-cord.